We begin with our discussion on Unit 4 of Equity Valuation. And in this unit, we are going to discuss a little bit about some of the more advanced valuation techniques or some of the specific cases of valuation where we have to make adjustments to the existing methods that we have read about, which are namely the DCF valuation and the relative valuation methods. Right? So in both of these cases, we are assuming certain things about companies, and in certain special cases of valuation, these assumptions may not hold true all the time. So it's important to see what are the adjustments needed to these set of data points to understand the valuation concepts better in those specific cases, right? So we're going to look at distressed company valuation. We're going to look at some applications while doing M&A, not in too much detail, but at least a little bit of understanding on how do companies go about doing this. We're going to look at adjustments for young companies, small startup kind of companies, which have a short growth history at this point of time. And we're going to look at an extension of relative valuation, which is called as transaction comparable methods, right? So we will begin this session with the idea of a distressed company. And one of the key assumptions in valuation is that a company is a going concern. What does that mean? It means that in the context of a company, we are assuming that the concept of terminal value assumes that the company is going to stay till infinity. In relative valuation also, when we compare firms to other firms which may be healthier and may have a chance to last longer than the firm which we are valuing, it is difficult to do away with this judgment, in the valuation models we've discussed so far. So essentially, we are saying that the company is going to last forever. And that's kind of very clearly established in DCF models with the terminal value and implicitly established in the relative valuation model when you're comparing it to other firms, which may last longer than the company under consideration, right? In real life, however, companies may be under stress. We don't know whether they are distressed or not distressed as of now, or at least we have not incorporated that in our valuation understanding so far in whatever models we have created so far, right? Now, it's important to realize that distress is far more common in real life, and hence an understanding on what firms may be in distress is important. Otherwise, we'll end up overvaluing companies, right? There are two ways you can overvalue company. One is you will probably end up giving higher cash flows to the company. So cash flows are higher than what they are. And the second thing is cash flows are longer than what they would probably be in our projections, right? Now, distress could come because of the following factors. Usually, the biggest component of distress is significant leverage. High presence of debt or high debt equity ratios in a company could pertain to significant amount of stress at some point of time. Unfavorable business cycles, any external events such as regulation, etc., or in general, if you're looking at the operations of the firm, significant amount of inefficiencies in the firm could also result in distress, right? So if a firm has too much debt, coupled with probably some of these other events like regulatory clampdown or unfavorable business conditions and inefficiencies in the firm, all these or some of these combine together to create distress in firms at various points of time. Now, basically, in the context of a distress, what is a distress? If we want to define distress, that is inability to repay all stakeholders, right? Inability to repay all stakeholders. And in this context, the problem is that in your debt and equity, your payment starts from the top. So equity guys get paid the last, and hence if the firm is in stress, there's a fair chance that the equity guy will not get their due, right? Now, what are the adjustments that we are going to make while doing distressed company valuation? How can we adjust? Now, one school of thought says that we could incorporate it just by taking higher beta values in the discount rate, right? So you can just take higher beta values in the discount rate and go ahead and evaluate the company using that. So that will basically increase the risk of the company and consequently value it automatically, right? The problem is that in the two issues that we saw, which is cash flows are higher and cash flows are longer, it only solves the first one, right? Higher cash flows will get discounted at a higher discount rate. So that basically adjusts for the distress and valuation under distress. But it does not address the second one, which is longer cash flows, right? So the fact that cash flows may not happen at all if the firm defaults in between, or what is the situation of truncated cash flows may not be addressed clearly by increasing the beta in the discount rate, right? So discount rate only ensures that that we're going to look at the first cut analysis, and we're going to kind of adjust for higher cash flows than what cash flows could be in real life, but it doesn't adjust for the fact that cash flows could actually get coming in only for 5 or 7 years when we are assuming that they're going to come till infinity, right? So using a higher beta is not necessarily the best approach. There are thus four different methods which various textbooks prescribe for adjusting a valuation for distress, right? Within these four, there are a couple which are more important than the other ones, more simpler or more logical to apply than the other ones, right? The first one is simulation. So you simulate the distress scenario and see what happens in that distress scenario, what kind of payment do people get, and you could simulate it using something like Monte Carlo simulations. You just need to know what parameters to simulate, like sales or profitability, and you know what kind of distribution those parameters have, and that becomes a slightly tricky task. You know, in the absence of anything, you could probably do a lot of scenario analysis, say best case, worst case, better case, bad case, all those kind of things. Try and see in each of the cases what happens to the equity value, and then probably assign some sort of weight to all of these, right? So you could say that I have a best case, I have a base case set of assumptions, I have a bad case, and I have a worst case assumption. And I could ascribe 25% value to each of these to finally arrive at the final value, right? That could be one mechanism where we could simulate and adjust the valuations based on that, right? The second could be modified cash flows. So you adjust the cash flows with a probability of default. In other words, cash flow multiplied by 1 minus probability of default is what is going to get the adjusted cash flow. If there is default, there's going to be no cash flow, right? So, or in other words, if you are adjusting cash flow in a normal case and cash flow in a default case, then this is into probability of default. Usually, what would happen is that this number would become zero. The cash flow itself would become zero in the case of default happening, right? Then you can do a going concern value with adjustment for distress. This is the most commonly used value method. Most commonly used method. Why is it the most commonly used method? You basically try and find out value of a going concern and multiply that with 1 minus probability of default, and then you find the value of the defaulted company or company when it is in distress or in default, and multiply that with probability of default, right? That's one mechanism of finding it as well. Now this is overall value itself and not just individual cash flows. The final one is adjusted present value. In this case, you find the value of the unlevered firm, then you basically add the tax benefits and you subtract the cost of bankruptcy or cost of distress from the firm, right? Uh, so there are mechanisms of finding all of these. Essentially, unlevered firm can be valued using the unlevered beta and valuing it at equity only. Tax benefits could come because of the interest component that comes in. So what are the tax benefits of those debt? And cost of distress could be basically what happens if there is a distress sale. So your firm value or steady state value minus distress sale value is in a way your cost of distress. So if in steady state the company can sell for 10,000 crore and in distress sale the company can sell for 6,000 crore, then the cost of distress is 4,000 crore. Correct? That's what you do in adjusted present value. The most commonly used method is the third method, which is going concern valuation with adjustment for distress. Right? So now let's understand what do we mean by going concern valuation with adjustment for distress. In this case, we are trying to find out, the basic premise is that we are finding the DCF value of equity into 1 minus probability of distress plus distress value of equity into probability of distress, right? So obviously we have to find value of the company. This portion, which is the DCF value of equity, we already know how to calculate it, right? We need to find out two more things now. What is the distress value of equity and what is the probability of that distress? Both of these things we need to try and identify and find out as we go along, right? Now, what do we mean by probability of distress and how do we find that? So steps here are value the firm as a going concern. Nothing specific needs to be done. We already know how the valuation is being done, so we can use any of the methods there. Estimate the probability of distress. This is something we need to find out how do we do that. Estimate distress sale value of equity, and this is something that we need to find out how do we do that, right? So let's understand theoretically what's going to happen here. Distress probability. Now we need to identify the probability of distress over the tenure of the DCF valuation, which is usually 5 to 10 years, right? The best way is to find out distress probability of firms using their credit rating. So with their credit rating, given the credit rating for a firm, what are the chances of default in 5 years or 10 years? Now how do we find this? Either we get into the credit rating database and look at companies over the last 10 years and understand who has defaulted, right? We can also do it with statistical relations between companies which are distressed and their financial parameters such as debt to equity and operating margin. Primarily, profitability and stability are the two key components. So I can look at which firms are in distress in the last few years and try and compare their operating margins and profitability and try and understand what's happening with their debt equity ratios, what's happening with their profitability, to understand whether they are in distress or not, and what kind of companies get into distress, at what levels of debt equity does distress start, at what levels of operating profit margin in certain businesses does distress start, right? And based on that we could assign some sort of a probability, right? Now obviously this is a time consuming process and we do have some data points which are available. So Professor Damodaran on his website and textbook has given a work on distressed companies where, given a certain rating during this period, what has been the cumulative probability of distress. So what are the chances that the company will be in default in 5 years and in 10 years? Obviously the chances that it is in default in 10 years is much higher than the chances that it is in default in 5 years. So the probability of default, if your credit rating is AAA, is 0.03%, which is basically negligible default chances. In fact, in the top 4 or 5, the chances are practically negligible because 1% chance of default doesn't really change valuation at all, right? It's what happens when the credit rating starts falling below double B, B plus, and so on and so forth, where you see there are sudden jumps in the probabilities of default, going all the way up to 80% for companies that are rated C minus, right? So if the bond rating of a company is deteriorating, if the bond rating of a company is going down, what is effectively happening is that the chances of default are increasing, and the chances of default in 5 years are obviously lesser than the default in 10 years. 10 years is a more encompassing condition because you can end up doing default in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th year as well, in addition to the first 5 years. So 5 years plus something is going to give you 10 years, right? Now, these are the data points which have been picked up from the past in these 30-year periods. So if there were 1,000 firms here, probably about, or 10,000 firms here, probably 3 of them defaulted with a AAA rating in a 5-year and a 10-year period. But here, if there were kind of 100 firms, 80 of them defaulted in a 5-year period, 87 of them over a 10-year period. So once you do this, you automatically arrive at what is the probability of distress, right? What are the chances that the company will do a default? You can also look at this table and say that a company's bond rating went from A plus to B plus. What is the increase in the probability of default, and consequently what is the fall in the value, right? So if the company was valued at 10,000 crore here and the probability of default was 0.18, that's negligible essentially. Here the probability is 16%, so there is only an 84% chance that the company will survive. So the fall in value could be significant in this context, nearly a 16% fall in value. That could happen, right? So essentially that's how bond rating changes also start affecting equity valuation. And we might want to incorporate this over a longer period in terms of looking at what the bond rating of a company is. That's the distress probability. Now, Moody's has also given a similar table, and you're saying that if you're AAA and the number of years after which it comes, that's the percentage of default rate that comes up in terms of Moody's, right? In what Moody's says, and you see that companies that are rated lower have a high probability of default. Obviously, the numbers could be different. This is based on the current data that is available, and this is based on historical data for 30-year periods which are available. And so you could use any of those, but at least some of those have to be used, right? The final thing you want to attribute once you have the probability based on the credit rating of the company. And where do you find the credit rating? It's available online. Usually, if a company has issued bonds, the credit rating for those bonds would be available, right? If bonds have not been issued, you could assign some sort of a credit rating by looking at financial parameters. The next stage comes in terms of looking at distress sale value of equity. Now, in the case that distress happens, the firm will basically end up winding operations or selling assets, right? Now, in a fire sale kind of a scenario, we can assume this value as a percentage of book value. Usually what happens is your long-term assets get sold, at anywhere between 20 to 50% kind of a data. Current assets or short-term assets, current assets get sold at anywhere between 50 to 100%. Again, your inventory might get sold at 50, or receivables might be anywhere between 50 to 80, and cash and the current investments typically get sold at close to 100%. So that gives you a total value of the assets that come. This is the distress sale value of assets. This minus all your liabilities is going to give you the equity value. Now, usually what happens is you are in distress only when you're not able to pay all your liabilities. So for all practical purposes, this value becomes 0 because your assets are not able to cover your external liabilities. Only then there is distress that happens, right? Sometimes this might just happen where you still have some value of equity left in case there is distress that happens. So you get all the 3-4 parameters, you can combine them to put together to say that if a firm is rated, for example, B plus, then whatever is the DCF value of equity into 84%, that's 1 minus 16%, plus distress value of equity could be anywhere between, let's say, 0 and 1,000 crore for argument's sake, into 16% probability. If DCF value was 10,000 crore, that's 8,400 plus, let's say, 0 here. So that's the value of the equity. There should be a 16% write-off of your DCF value. that's happening because of this probability of distress, right? That's basically how you would go about doing a going concern valuation with adjustment for distress. In our next section, we are going to look at an example of a company and try and evaluate this data for a company, and also look at what do we do in the case of relative valuations for these companies. And so as we end this session, a couple of quick questions. How can we estimate the probability of default for a company? And what are the various methods of valuation for distressed companies? Thank you.